Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I'm going to do something that we rarely, almost never, ever do. I'm going to play the audio of our last two DVDs, our most recent DVDs. Now, I'm only going to play about half of the audio. Obviously, if I play the whole thing, why buy the cow if you get the milk free? But the point is, I'm going to try to really encourage you. Look, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can't get all of the information by just listening to radio. You can't do it. Yes, I'm going to encourage you to get my charts. You can download those free. prophecyclub.com in the download section. Excellent, awesome charts. As a matter of fact, as I search around on the internet, there is, in my opinion, my very, very, very humble opinion is I don't think anybody has prophecy charts even remotely close to as good as my charts. So you can download those, but here, at the end of the day, you want to understand Bible prophecy, you want to understand the very, very best of Bible prophecy, and I think it's in my new DVD, then you got to get it. Yeah, how do I say? I feel like just jumping up and down, hollering and screaming and saying, you got to get it, you got to get it, you got to get it. It's just that good. It really, really is. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to offer both of our brand new DVDs just here made, in the last couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, I think they just finished editing them 2 days ago. Brand new for an amazing offer. Okay, here's the deal. The newest one, 17 Secrets in the Feasts and in the Trumpets. Topics are the coronation of Jesus, the barley and wheat harvest. I promise you don't know this. Secrets in the Feasts and the Trumpets. Feast revelations in the last 7 months. You don't know that either. It's all new revelation, and it ain't been out no place. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Matter of fact, then Bree just did, I thought, an amazing job in her new DVD called Is Trump Our Patrick Henry? Bree's mother was a descendant of the patriot, Patrick Henry, and she reveals shocking, never-released private family records and bloodlines to give you a true history, how God used Patrick Henry and Donald Trump to save America. Henry, like Trump, was a fantastic orator. Henry could have become our first president. Henry and Trump are both blue-collar populist leaders. Bree's going to show you in this DVD how Patrick Henry was even more the hero than American history led him out to be, even more so than Jefferson, Washington. He instigated the revolution, saved America from the control of the global elite, much like Trump is battling today. Matter of fact, I think the thing that I learned is the most is the same things that we are battling today, the same ruling elite, the same evil Democrats on the wrong side. He was doing the same thing. And Bree was extremely well researched. I'm going to say these are both really, really good DVDs. $30 each, normally gift of $60. However, get them at prophecyclub.com right now. Both of them gift of $45. Yes, it goes for a good cause, but you're going to be very informed. You will really, I promise, you will like both these DVDs. Really good. prophecyclub.com is Trump Our Patrick Henry and 17 Secrets in the Feasts and the Trumpets. Here, I'll give you a little bit more. 17 Secrets in the 7 Feasts and the 7 Trumpets. You want to understand what's going on? Get those 2 DVDs. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go on over and start playing part of the audio of the DVD, Is Trump Our Patrick Henry? Dr. Bree Keyton.
Virginia's agreement to resist the king was signed at the top by Patrick Henry. You've only ever heard of John Hancock, but it was Patrick Henry that no one deserved more credit for the revolution than Henry. That's a quote. George Washington, elected commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, commanded North and South armies. It was politically strategic because he was from the middle, which was Virginia, and it was thought that it would bring peace between the North and the South. The slaughter at Bunker Hill and Breed's Hill occurred before he could arrive. After that, he took charge. Patrick Henry was appointed commander-in-chief of Virginia's regular forces and governor. But the elite, watch this, feared his power. The loyalty and love of the people and men who followed him, they believed in him. It was the elite who hated him. This is exactly the thing that Trump is going through. The elite here fear his power. But it was Patrick Henry, the first man to declare freedom of worship. Wow! Did you know that? As commander-in-chief of Virginia's forces, he insisted troops have complete freedom of worship. You know that's being taken from our troops. horribly as of the last regime. Horribly. He implemented freedom religion to the whole state of Virginia. How about that? And it caught on all across America. The troops cheered and paraded Henry through Williamsburg. Culpeper Minutemen were fierce fighters. They wore buck-tailed hats, scalping knives, and tomahawks. Green shirts emblazoned with liberty or death, and their flag was a coiled rattlesnake that said, "Don't tread on me." So this was all the Virginia under the leadership of Patrick Henry. Many of the men were clients he defended and opposed. Shelton's Tavern was full of regulars who reeled to his fiddle. I told you he loved to play music. The frontiersmen, farmers, planters, boys, Major Thomas Marshall and his son John Marshall, who became Secretary of State and Chief Justice, James Monroe, a future president, and Henry's oldest son, all marched behind him in that army. In response, King George sent 500 British ships, 20,000 troops, and 9,000 German mercenaries, mostly to New York, and Lord Cornwallis with a smaller fleet to Charleston, South Carolina, to divide the North from the South. Isn't that the way Jezebel works? Always divide. Isn't that the way the Antichrist spirit works? Always divide. But I want you to take time, if it's been a while, and see that movie, The Patriot, again. One of the great movies. And it's all about the South Carolina, North Carolina war. And by the way, Patrick Henry sent troops down there to help them, and he sent troops from Virginia to help Washington all the time. The colonists were willing to die rather than be enslaved. Are you? You know they're going to try to pull out the mark very shortly, aren't they? Mark of the beast, dear ones. What will you do about that? You need to start thinking right now, because these men said no, liberty or death. What will you say? Henry's ideals: freedom, abolition of slavery, a moral society, a small government, local politics, religious freedom. These are essential principles upon which our nation was built, and they're the very things that the wicked are trying to take from us as we speak. Now here's a man, General Charles Lee. He fought 7 years against the French and Indians. In the southern department of the war, he was a peculiar, tall, thin, slovenly person. There he is with a dog, always with a pack of dogs. John Adams wrote, "You must love his dogs if you love him, and forgive 1,000 wins." So this guy, he was actually a hero in the war, but he got in trouble and they threw him out at some point, but because he was a little crazy. Henry was elected first governor, and he was elected governor 5 times. After that, he just refused. People saw him as an extremist. He wanted, and he wrote, and this came from Henry, for a more perfect union. You see, the great words that we've attributed to others came from him. But he was under constant attack, and they sought to silence and control him. But he was uninfluenced by private ambition. He pursued the general good of your country. Here he is as the first governor of Virginia. Trump fights for liberty, doesn't he? Yet the press lie constantly against him, and they fear his power. They fear his tweets because they can't alter those. They come from him. The speeches, they lie and they distort the words. That's why he tweets. I'm not saying I love all those tweets. I'm just saying he does it because he has no choice. We need to pray. If you don't like him, you don't like what he does, pray. We need to pray for our rulers, don't we? On slavery, Henry stated, "I believe a time will come when an opportunity will be offered to abolish this lamentable evil." You see, he stood against it. He advocated against slavery, opposed slavery, and wanted slaves to have a vote. And this was as early as 1774 that he was saying this. He worked his whole life and was a compatriot with abolitionists to stop slavery. Henry believed the principles of the Bible and liberty were contrary to slaveholding. He proposed to subsidize marriages between whites and Indians, and he was certainly the first to ever do that. Time after time, the House of Burgesses petitioned the king to end the slave trade, but the king himself shared the profits of the trade and refused to even respond. The greedy do not listen to the cries of the people, then or now. Their goal is to gain power and wealth, and they raise interest rates and kill the rallying economy. They're driven by rapacious appetites as they force immigration of illegals, slave trade. We know there's a sex slave trade, don't we? And a human trafficking trade. And it's run by some of the leaders. And they force immigration of illegals. And they pass laws to block and steal elections. Politicians rearrange districts to manipulate elections. They bring in cheap labor to undermine citizens' jobs and prosperity. They strain the economy with illegals who receive welfare, health care, schooling, drive without insurance. They sign up to vote illegally and they're bussed around to vote again and again. Illegals bring in horrible diseases which we eradicated in America, such as TB, smallpox, and leprosy. New diseases they're bringing in: yellow fever, dengue, chikungunya, malaria, and Chagas. These are deadly diseases that we never had. And they bring in a lot of lice and scabies and parasites. Some of this we didn't have before, some of these parasites. They bring in gangs, crime, police problems. They fill our courts. They fill our prisons. And they bring in anchor babies so they can stay. Well, the same thing, exactly the same thing, was happening in the day of Patrick Henry. The British Crown sent all their rabble to America. They sent all the undesirables and the criminals and the wicked people that they just took out of their prisons and shipped over here and dumped them on the colonists, and they couldn't handle it. It was killing the economy. Then there was the problem of renegade slaves, which the British, remember, they forced the slaves on them. Then the British incited a revolt of the slaves and forced and offered freedom to anyone who would run away and fight with the British. So they caused one problem on one side and the other problem on the other side, all to destroy the very colonies they helped create. Men were afraid to leave their families and farms and go and fight in the war, which made it very hard on Washington, very hard on everybody. Raising troops was nearly impossible. Now a difficulty arose on the Mississippi River, which was where they did a lot of commerce, and all the southern states did commerce up and down there, but the Spanish were blocking the commerce on the river. So there was a real big problem, you see, and the South was fighting to keep their commerce going, which really hurt them during that Revolutionary War. We're going to briefly mention Mad King George. There he is, Mad King George III. All right, he had a disease called porphyria, a genetic blood disorder. It runs rampant in the royal families, including the Windsors of today. Two of Queen Elizabeth's sisters were locked in asylums. Prince Charles fears he has the disease. Royal inbreeding propagated the disease. The symptoms are madness, paranoia, mental illness, manic phases, convulsions, hallucinating, abnormal hair growth, skin disorders, etc. This is what George had. King George assaulted his family, attacked them. He threw his son across the room. He babbled endlessly with foam running from his mouth. He spoke to trees. Finally, at the end of his life, he was locked away in a straitjacket. King George was known as the Mad King, who provoked the colonies and let them slip away. Patrick Henry resigned as commander-in-chief of the Virginia Armed Forces because his political enemies, in a jealous fit, who feared his strong influence, undermined and insulted him and lied about his ability to lead and his competence, and humiliated him and invented excuses and lies. So he quit. They wrote to Henry, "We are compelled to applaud your spirit of resentment to the most glaring indignity." That's what his troops wrote. The troops loved him. And the Gazette said, from an officer, "Henry's political enemies strove to bury in obscurity his martial talents." In other words, he was a great leader of the militia. He was a great man. Virginia may truly boast that in him she finds the able statesman, the soldier's father, the best of citizens, and liberty's best friend. The officers and soldiers who know him are riveted to his bosom. But you see, the elite hated him. Who do we have in the White House now that the elite hate, and they constantly attack and defile his reputation and lie and lie and lie and lie until they're proven beyond a shadow of a doubt it's a lie? Then they drop that lie and pick up another lie. Isn't that the truth? It's exactly what happened to our beloved Patrick Henry. 90 officers signed the letter and declared they will not serve under any other commander. That should tell you something about what a good leader he was. Henry delayed his departure for several days to his home and visited all the barracks and pleaded with the men, don't quit. Your country needs you. Just because they've done evil to me, you do good to them. And he talked them all into staying. What have they done to Trump? They've lied about him. They've hurt him. They've put out fake news. They've organized fake protests. Now we'll talk about Jefferson. People don't know this. He was a coward. Hasn't he been painted as this great creator of the Constitution and blah, 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 and oh, what a great man, and blah, blah, blah. Well, Jefferson was elected governor after Patrick Henry and after Edmund Randolph. He became the governor, and he failed to raise a militia to protect Virginia. He was too busy partying with all his money and friends and larking around. And so when the British attacked Virginia, he fled with his family and hid and left Virginia completely vulnerable. He utterly failed. And he left the capital unprotected. Henry brought formal accusations against him and accused him of being a coward. And so they became enemies. They'd been lifelong friends. Now they're enemies. And to the end, they were enemies till they both died. But still, Jefferson commented and said he is the greatest orator that ever lived. I mean, you just couldn't get away from that. The state of Franklin, here's another thing very few people know about. After the Revolutionary War, creditors threw farmers in debtors' prison. And farmers took up arms to defend their property from the sheriff. So if you were a sheriff and you came on their property, they'd shoot you. Because the sheriffs would come and even bring troops and take their land by force. You know that's not right. Mobs attacked debtors' prisons, county courthouses, county clerks all across the country, and burned them down shouting, "Liberty or death." In North Carolina, Western farmers seceded from the Union. Did you ever hear that story? And they created a state called the state of Franklin. They seceded. Tennessee and southwestern Virginia were also poised to follow suit. So there was almost a secession of the South. Citizens demanded forgiveness of debts. Patrick Henry saved the fledgling Union again. I mean, how many times has he saved them so far? He rode out to calm them, pledging to fight for reform. The Confederation Congress passed the Northwest Ordinance and ceded Western territories to the Confederation. They provided progressively free self-government in Northwest territories. So Henry got them to stop seceding and come back into the Union. It was him that saved the Union. Did you ever hear that? He cared little, the northern states cared little about the southern states. You see, that's a problem, isn't it? And they tried to vote away the navigation rights of the Mississippi, which is where all the commerce took place, and they would have destroyed the South. The northern reps favored the businesses in the north. So the South, the whole South, nearly seceded again. The Spanish claimed it and blocked the commerce. The northern states voted to allow this block, and the South almost left. Henry went and saved them and told them, don't do it. I'll help you. I'll do anything I can do. But he had one thing that I haven't mentioned very much. Henry always put his family first. He had 18 children. And many times they called him, come and lead us here. Come and do this. And he said, no, I have a family. And I love them. And I must go take care of them. There was no royal cessions to him, money, lands. He had to work. How many of you have to work too? We have to work to protect our families, and in my case, to protect the pygmies that I'm working to save in the Congo. I have to work all the time in order to do this. And so I can't just lay around, because I wasn't born into a blue blood family with multi-zillions of dollars. I have to work. And Patrick went home sometimes when we wished he would have stayed. So here's what happened. He did not attend the Constitutional Convention. He put his family first. He had to plant and harvest. This opened a door for the elite to cut out the common citizens' rights from the convention. The Iroquois Federation, very interesting, and I wanted to throw this in. Little do people know, but there was an Iroquois Confederacy in 1142, and they enacted the Great Law of Peace. And they had a League of 5 and then 6 nations, and you can see those names there, the Mohawk, Oneida, and so on. And the Cherokees are also Iroquois language people. Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson attended the treaty councils with this federation of Indian nations to form alliances, and some believe the Iroquois laws influenced Henry and Jefferson in writing their constitutions, because the 3 peacemakers, Dinakanawata and Hiawatha, a name you probably recognize, and Jingosawa, Mother of Nations, whose home was like the United Nations, and these 3 worked to bring the Great Peace. The women had half the stories, the men had the other half of the stories, which they would pass down. And the message to the tribes was a law of peace. Abandon cannibalism, advance peace, civil authority, righteousness, the great law, form a confederation. Each tribe gets 1 vote, must be unanimous, joint jurisdiction of 50 peace chiefs, treaties ratified 75% men and 75% of mothers. They can revise the laws by 2/3 of the mothers required. So women had an equal place in that society. They had a representative form of government. They governed with committee, 1 member from each nation elected. No one nation had more power than another. Checks and balances, a system for choosing leaders, well-organized defense, adoption of shelter of captives and refugees. There's a picture of their confederacy. They were very advanced and very intricate set of laws. Mothers were held in honored place in society, equal voting, men and women on councils, maternal kinship system, descendant inheritance through the mother. Children belong to the mother's clans. Clan mothers have respect. They nominate the chief for life. Patrick Henry fought for Washington's Constitution. Now, once they went in and all these influences, Patrick Henry's writing of the Virginia Constitution, and then the Iroquois. You see, there's lots of influences, lots and lots. All right, so Patrick Henry, each state must ratify the Constitution. So when they came to Virginia in the summer of 1787, Patrick Henry nearly stopped the Union of the United States. That might shock you. He almost succeeded. He filibustered in Virginia, which would have stopped everything. Why did he do that? It was for you and me. He said this in his mighty filibuster speech, which is a work of art. Nothing could check a national government entrusted with vast military might and the unlimited authority to tax. Was that a brilliant statement or what? You see, he's way ahead of his time. And he tried to stop the Constitution from being ratified. Henry predicted tyranny. He said Congress will have an unlimited, unbounded command over the soul of this Commonwealth. And he was right, wasn't he? How many wicked laws have they passed just ignoring the people who elected them? Henry feared powerful federal government would strip individual liberties, and he was right. He demanded a Bill of Rights. Now, this is terrible. They had no Bill of Rights in that Constitution. None. None. We would have gone right back under a tyranny just exactly like King George, because the royalists were still there. Henry's words echo across time, inspiring millions to fight government's creeping intrusion into daily life. Human nature, he roared, will never part from power. Is that true or false? That's the truth. I speak as one poor individual, he said, but when I speak the language of thousands. He believed big government brought tyranny, and he was right. He saved America again. Can you imagine why haven't we ever heard this in our history books? Henry was an anti-federalist. Without his strident opposition, Federalists would never have included provisions protecting freedom, religion, speech, press, right to bear arms, trial by jury, states' rights, etc. The elite opposed the Bill of Rights. And guess who the elite still were? Same guys. Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Adams, all the guys you've come to revere because that's what your history books told you. They were elitists. And they wrote the Constitution because Henry was home taking care of his family. They failed to include a Bill of Rights, and they wished to return to oppressing the poor. Today, the world's elite do not want us to have a Bill of Rights. They're eroding it little by little, and they're eating it away. Do you know Obama went to Africa? They greatly admired him. And he went there and he said, you can't have air conditioning. You can't have this and you can't have that. And he said it to the Africans.
Well, I'm going to have to break in right there, but I do encourage you to get these 2 DVDs. First one, my newest one, my latest one, only 2 weeks old, 17 Secrets in the Feasts and the Trumpets. Topics are the coronation of Jesus, the barley and wheat harvest, that's real important, secrets in the feasts and the trumpets, feast revelations in the last 7 months, very, very good. The last 3 New Testament and best 3 Old Testament verses on the rapture. 17 secrets in the feasts and in the trumpets. Also, from Dr. Bree Keyton, Is Trump Our Patrick Henry? Bree's mother was a descendant of the patriot Patrick Henry. Now, I think what you're going to really get from this, it's going to help you to see the plans of the enemy from the perspective of looking through the vision of history through Patrick Henry right on down to Trump, and you're going to say, oh my goodness, he was battling the same things that we're battling today. That's right, still working for world government, still working for a global elite. It's amazing. So many things. Believe me, you're gonna love both these DVDs, both of them. Valued at $60, prophecyclub.com, both for a gift of $45. 17 secrets in the feasts and the trumps, and Is Trump Our Patrick Henry? Valued at $60, gift of $45, prophecyclub.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. The final answer to the rapture question. Definitive proof that America is in Revelation. 7 signs to spot the Antichrist early. The surprising final plague on earth. And kings and priests. What's the third woe? Who are the nations? Are all the saints kings and priests, or some kings, some priests? Both DVDs gift of $40 at prophecyclub.com. The Watchman's Trumpet will allow you to gift free coupons to friends to watch Prophecy Club DVDs online. They get saved, and it counts toward your book of works because it was done in cooperation with the Prophecy Club. When you donate for Watchman's Trumpet, end your gift in a 7, and we'll give you 20% extra viewing credits for helping create the program. The cost to write the program ranges from $70,000 to $150,000 from 2 to 6 months to write. Once Watchman's Trumpet is online, you can set up your account for $1 and get 4 credits, or you may choose a larger block of credits. You can immediately begin to watch any Prophecy Club DVD or send out free gift coupons to others. Send your best gift to prophecyclub.com now to help us write the program. Make the last digit of your donation a 7, and we'll give you 20% extra viewing credits in the new Watchman's Trumpet program when it comes online. At prophecyclub.com, prophecyclub.com, Watchman's Trumpet.